Earlier today, I had a fantastic conversation with someone who is redefining what it means to go from research to real world impact. Dr. Ruth Weir, Head of Entrepreneurship at University College London. She's helping researchers turn ideas into startups, and her story is packed with insight, warmth, and plenty of surprises. Welcome to another episode of School to Startup, brought to you by Tracxn, a private market intelligence platform that's been supporting the global startup ecosystem for over 12 years. Through our university partnership programs, we work with institutions driving innovation and entrepreneurship. And this series highlights the academic leaders making that happen. I'm Harish, host for today, and let's dive into the full conversation with Dr. Roth.
Let's jump in then. Dr. Ruth, thank you very much. Great to have you on this episode. Thanks again for joining us. So let's kick it off with your story. What pulled you into academia, and uh, how did that turn with a passion of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I have an academic background. I was a neuroscience researcher. I got a PhD in neuroscience from UCL. And after my PhD, I wanted to pursue academic research. And I moved over to the USA in California and did 5 years postdoc research there. And after 5 years of working over in California as a postdoc, my fellowship money came to an end and my visa came to an end. So I had to move back to the UK. And at that point, it was a crossroads of my life and career. It was a point where life happened to me rather than kind of me choosing my own destiny. So it was a big kind of a big shift. And I went traveling first. I went away for 3 months and took it as a fun break, and then met up with a load of friends over the summer and took that as a fun break. And after 6 months, I thought I should probably start thinking about what my next steps were going to be. So started applying for roles, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was at that crossroads of, I've trained my whole life to be an academic. I'm not sure if that is what I want to do, but if I don't do that, then I have thought about nothing else and no other career. So I was wrestling with that decision. But once I made that decision of, okay, I think I'm done with academia, being an academic researcher, I was happy with that decision, but it didn't make the decision of what else to do any easier, because then all the options of jobs are available to me. I liked working in academia. I wanted to be research adjacent. So I looked at scientific writing roles. I looked at lab manager roles. I looked at like clinical medical work, preclinical medical work. Applied to lots of different things, got a lot of rejections, which was a really hard period when I was like, because I didn't need to apply to lots of jobs, because I wanted to apply for one that I wanted rather than just getting a job for the sake of getting the job. I was in a lucky position that I was living back home with my mum and dad, so I didn't need a job per se, but I wanted a job that I was going to fulfill me. And I was unemployed for about a year, and it was really tough time for just kind of, I don't know what my where my head is at. I've trained my whole entire life. I'm a failed academic. All of that was going through my head. But I went out on a night out with a group of my friends from UCL that we did our PhDs together. And I was saying, I'm unemployed. I don't really know what I want to do, yada, yada, yada. And then one of them got in contact a few weeks later and said, Ruth, there's a role coming up at UCL in the entrepreneurship team, overseeing the delivery of their extracurricular entrepreneurship program for PhD students. I think you'd be really good at it. And I think it's only because she said that last part of, I think you'd be really good at it, did I give it a second look, because I had never thought about entrepreneurship. I had never had no business background. I didn't think I understood what it was. But because she said, I think you'd be really good at it. I knew the PhD community at UCL. I was a PhD student here. I understand the challenges and what they go through to get a PhD at UCL. And I was, at that point, willing to explore all opportunities. I came in for what I thought was an informal chat with the director, and came out with a job. And it was and is still an incredible surprise to land a role in entrepreneurship. It wasn't planned. But here I am. It's worked out okay.
I was just telling you, it clearly turned your research journey into something that helps others build theirs, right? So,
Yes.
what are some of the programs or the projects at UCL that you're working on right now?
So while I started as a junior member of the team, I now run the team. I'm the head of entrepreneurship at UCL, which means my remit is to provide an extracurricular offer, from my perspective, for every single student that wants it at UCL. And when I speak to students, they fall into one of two groups. They are either say to me, oh no, entrepreneurship, it's not for me, it's a big scary word, I'm not interested in entrepreneurship, or they think it's a really exciting opportunity. And no matter which group they fall into, we have something for them. So for those that think it's a big scary word, they don't understand it, they maybe assume it's all Dragon's Den, The Apprentice, all of those TV shows, that it's all about kind of starting a business and making money. It's about demystifying what entrepreneurship is and how it can benefit them, maybe their research, maybe how they approach the job market. Because at the end of the day, I believe, and I have changed my perspective on entrepreneurship, having gone from not knowing much at all and having those very similar assumptions of, oh, it's about making money and starting businesses. Actually, I've changed my mind on what it is. And now I can promote that to other students and say, look, it's about three things. It's about problems, it's about solutions, and it's about impact. And that's what employers are looking for when they're hiring new graduates. You got a fantastic degree from UCL, but what's going to help you stand out from the crowd in an interview process is if you can demonstrate how you can come up with solutions to problems that a business is facing that have an impact for that business, which might be things get done quicker, more efficiently, ultimately make the business money. So it's money makes the world go round. We're not going to lie and paint a picture that it doesn't. And even the biggest non-profit or charity organizations still need to consider fundraising and paying their staff and keeping the lights on. So you can't ignore money as part of entrepreneurship. So it's breaking down and demystifying what entrepreneurship is for those that think it's scary, its employability skills, and setting that real foundation of thinking about something differently, challenging assumptions, and seeing how it can boost their career trajectory. And for those that think it's an exciting opportunity, we've got a suite of programs that take them through ideation, the early stage of a business model canvas. So identifying your customers, identifying your competitors, all of the very fundamental things. And that is open to all UCL students, no matter what they are studying. That's a 6-week explore program that we run every term. So we're constantly running it. Very popular program. For those that are looking to take that idea and perhaps turning it into reality, we've got a 10-week venture builder program, which is taking something from an idea to a minimal viable product. And at the end of our pipeline, we have our Hatchery Incubator program, where we support university students, UCL students, for up to 2 years. If they have registered a business, if they are working on a business idea, then we give them up to 2 years worth of support. They get free access to work in our physical space in the centre of London. They get access to the team. They get a 10-week onboarding program. They get access to free professional services that we pay for. We believe that we boost the chance of success that a startup might have. We don't take any equity. We don't provide direct funding to all of the startups that we support, but we run competitions that they can apply for. They can pitch for money at various points in the 2 years. We signpost them across to competitions. So we support them in lots of different ways. And even though we don't take any equity and have no skin in the game financially, we want people to succeed because that benefits the university, because then we can showcase all the wonderful startups that have come out of UCL. It provides inspiration for the current students to show that people like them have done it. So we will always say, Theo from medical sciences, he was studying medicine at UCL and now has started a fashion business. Look, it gives people opportunities outside of just, oh, I'm doing a degree in, I should get a job in. It's providing opportunities, providing confidence boosting support, belief in people to give it a go. And we are running programs and events and masterclasses and boot camps and hackathons all year round. Well, 11 months of the year. We're an extremely busy team. And I think, as I said, my overarching remit is that my team, have an offer for every single student, no matter where they are at on their entrepreneurial journey, no matter what they are studying at UCL, no matter what problem they want to tackle, we can help them.
Great. That really sounds incredible and rewarding. I'm seeing those light bulb moments now. So I have seen your work. I have gone through your articles as well, and you have mentioned before that researchers make great entrepreneurs as well, right?
Yeah.
So let's take a step back for a moment. What are some of the biggest trends in the startup space that students should know about, right? And how is the academic world keeping up on that?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think point one is that I think with the world being what it is at this moment in time, geopolitically, financially, globally, there's a level of uncertainty about jobs, financial stability, careers, all of that. So the changing landscape of the world of work with AI, we are all building the plane as it takes off, I think, with implementing AI into our work, and therefore have the responsibility to help the next generation of students to use it ethically, to use it wisely, to use it helpfully. But lots of jobs that are impacted are graduate level jobs. So that's a scary uncertainty for students that are graduating. But there is a growing interest across students of university age in entrepreneurship because of that they are interested in working for themselves, being their own boss, earning while they learn, almost like the freelancer model of setting something up, and maybe it's a content creator. All of those are business ideas in and of themselves. So we can support that. So I think it's making sure that they are aware that we exist at UCL to support them, that we have the knowledge to guide them in the right direction, and so they don't get into any kind of sticky situations of tax or intertwined personal and business financial scenarios, which can happen if you start a little TikTok channel that you just do because you think it's all fun and games, and then you go viral, and then you're earning tens of £1,000s a month. And if all you did was put your personal bank account details associated with that account, then your personal account details and your business account details are all one and the same, and that can get complicated. So there's that angle of we can support people to have the confidence to try new things, to provide them with that safety net of give it a go, take a risk. You're unlikely to have a mortgage at this point. Yes, you're going to have to pay your rent. Yes, you're going to have to feed yourself, but your ability as a university student, as a young university student, all right, there's mature students as well, but for the most part, they're young. The opportunity to take a risk when young is the best. So we would always encourage them to try, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay. You can learn from it. The reason I always say that researchers make good entrepreneurs, and we do have a program specifically for researchers and early career researchers, because part of driving the UK economy or the global economy is about how innovations that happen within the university setting research, which is incredible research that goes on at UCL. How can that be taken out into the real world and have that real world impact? So the university is interested in commercializing the research that happens up there. But our part, and while there's the whole tech transfer office of UCL Business that take care of spinning out UCL companies with staff, that we can help with that, starting that pipeline and ensuring that the PhD students and the early career researchers are commercially minded, and they are doing research with that thought process of one day perhaps it might be an option or an opportunity to commercialize their research. So it's creating that pipeline, that mindset shift or mindset foundation at the early stage of an academic career that I never had of, okay, I'm doing research now, but why am I doing this research? What does it mean for the real world? And the reason, and often academics and entrepreneurs, they think they speak different languages. So it's about kind of translating and making a bridge between those two very different careers and being like, actually, they're not that different after all. And the way I did that is by thinking about the methodology of academia. And I will always come at it from a scientific standpoint. I know this doesn't hold true for all PhD programs and all research, but it's broadly applicable in terms of academic research is all about filling gaps of knowledge. What don't we know? And people do research to fill that gap. That is applicable in science, and it's applicable in arts and humanities as well. And a researcher will find that piece of unknown knowledge, and they will go out and do research on what is known, do their literature search, and they will then come up with a hypothesis that they want to test, if it maybe with experimental science. And from the data that they capture from those experiments, they will then iterate and change their thinking and their beliefs. And they will disseminate their research findings, usually through journal articles, conference presentations, posters, books, all of that. So that's an academic kind of methodology. An entrepreneur does exactly the same thing. An entrepreneur is just finding a gap in the market or identifying a problem that needs solving, and they will come up with their hypothesis of a service or a product that will solve that problem. And then they will go away, they will do their research in terms of what is already out there. They'll do their competitor analysis. So that early stage, a scientist will do their literature to view what is already known, who's done what. An entrepreneur will see what's already out on the market, what is still missing in the market, can they fill it? They will create their product or service. They'll go out to their early customers and say, do you think this works? Would you pay for it? Is this going to make money? How would you change this? And they will iterate and change and pivot their thinking based on their customer research. And then they will market, once it's gone to launch, they will market their product or service. So you can really lay out that map of what a researcher needs to do to take their career forward, and what an entrepreneur does to take their idea forward. And once you map it out to a researcher, to be like, look, this is what you do, this is what you know, this is what you could do as an entrepreneur, it's the same. You can see the light bulbs going off, and they go, oh, it's not that different. Even if it's scarier because it's unknown, just grounding them in something familiar can be that hook that they can then build something or stretch themselves to really change their mindset, and see what they can achieve. And that's what I was most proud of when I was kind of in that early role supporting the PhD program, was in being that bridge and translator between entrepreneurship and academia. And I did that through my own lived experience of saying, I used to think entrepreneurs were born, they were the hustlers, they were the kids that were born, they'd be buying sweets at the sweet shop in the morning, they'd be selling them for a profit in the playground. Those people absolutely exist. They are born entrepreneurs. You cut them in half, they bleed entrepreneurship. And that's what my old thinking of entrepreneurs were, that it was quite a fixed system. But now I believe that entrepreneurs, it's nature and nurture. They're born and made, and that everybody has the propensity within them, the ability within them, especially with the information that we have and tools that we have at our fingertips today, to move through the steps and turn an idea into reality. Some people will find it easier than others. Some people, but I think we all have that ability to do it. And the analogy I use here is running. I think there are people born on this planet to be fast runners, marathon runners, that they are born at high altitude. They have family pedigree that helps. They have the genetics that make them born runners. And those people will be phenomenal runners. They still have to train. They might have a born ability, but they're still going to have to train to be the best in the world. But I believe that both you and I also have that ability to train to complete a marathon. We get to the same finish chute. It might take us longer, but we still cross the same finish line. So that's why I think it's not easy. Doing a marathon's not easy. You can also read a lot of books about running, but that won't make you a better runner. To be a better runner, you've got to go out, put your shoes on and run. Same with entrepreneurship. You can read a lot of books about it. They'll give you some great tips, things to think about. But until you actually start applying that knowledge, you aren't going to become a better entrepreneur. So that's my take on it. It is for everybody. Some people find it easy than others, but everybody can do it. And entrepreneurship is for everyone, and no one should be put off giving things a go.
Totally agree on that. That said, any student-led startups from UCL that stood out to you recently or made you proud?
It's like choosing your favorite child. I will never pick one, but I always use a couple of examples. Yes, we are driven by metrics, by government reporting, and so we have to report standard success metrics. So we will always report on the number of student startups created. We will always report on the investment that those businesses raise. Those are really tangible, hard and fast metrics that are reported, easily to find, easy to report. But it's certainly not the be all and end all. Those businesses, they tend to be tech, software as a service businesses, VC backable businesses. However, as I said, my ethos is that entrepreneurship is for everyone, and our support is equally beneficial for someone. The example I want to give is a physiotherapy student at UCL. Fantastic physiotherapist, could tell you every muscle connection, what to do if those muscles go wrong. But she wanted to set up her own clinic that specialized in physio for acrobats and circus skills. But part of a physiotherapy degree is not about running your own clinic as a business. So we were able to give her that confidence to believe that we gave her the knowledge and then the confidence and belief that she had the ability to do it. So while that's not a venture capital backable business, it's never going to scale because it's her clinic. All right, she might employ some other employees, 2, 3, 4. She might turn it into a franchise at some point, but it's not going to raise 6 million in investment. But the impact we have had on her life in terms of enabling her to go from being an employee in the NHS to running her own clinic and funding herself and covering her own bills, having the confidence to charge prices that would feel quite alien if you've come from the public sector NHS type world. So that's one example I give in terms of the impact we can have as a physiotherapy student that sets up their own clinic. But equally, we have businesses that are raising millions. We've got we did a fireside chat just the other week of someone that came through our incubator program pre-COVID, 2016, 17. They did the equivalent of some of our programs. Importantly, didn't win or didn't come first in any of those programs, but had the resilience to stick with the idea. They had the belief in it. So developed it, stuck with it over time. They came through the incubator program. It's a left luggage business. So they partner with lots of hotels and shops for people to leave baggage once they've checked out of accommodation. If they're in London, they've got over 500 locations all over London and the world. They've got global locations as well. And I say to people, once you know the name of the business, it's called Stasher. As they're walking around London, start looking out for Stasher signs. Because once you start looking, you will see them. And so I always challenge people and be like, right, next time you're out walking, look for a Stasher sign. You will find one just on a walk, no matter where you go, because they've got so many central locations. And that's a UCL business. And it was really inspiring to hear Jacob's story of how, and it inspires the next generation to see that was a UCL student startup that is still going strong. They weathered COVID. And to hear that inspirational story firsthand was what we try and inspire our cohorts to really believe that yes, you're in the depth right now or trying to get that first customer, but dare to dream and dare to believe that about what your big time what your goals would be if fast forward 8 years and you're sitting on that stage doing a fireside chat with me, what story do you want to be telling? So while I will never pick, my top 3 favorite businesses are 1, 2, and 3, I'll always give examples of how we have helped the businesses that we have helped and how that continues to inspire the next set and cohorts of businesses to keep going and believe in their own ideas as well. So no favorite children.
Right. But I love hearing those stories. You were speaking about pre-COVID, right? One thing caught my eye is you moved this Sparrow program fully online in just 48 hours during the COVID, right?
Yeah.
First thing, wow, how did that happen? And secondly, like, what did that experience teach you about, teaching entrepreneurship, especially under that pressure?
Yeah. I think it was very much a case of practicing what we preach at that point. Part of being entrepreneurial is about adapting to the markets around you, the environment around you, the challenges and market pressures around you. COVID was a big driving shift for everyone. But we had to practice what we preach. We had to be agile. We had to be lean. We had to adapt very quickly. And this was before we knew what Zoom was. All we had at our disposal was Microsoft Teams. We had kind of used Teams pre-COVID, but really not. And that first realization of we've got a workshop booked and it's not going to be able to happen, but we want to honor that booking. And it's important, especially as, again, in very uncertain times, the labs were shutting, but hugely uncertain futures for what it meant for PhD students at that time. To have an element of consistency of I've booked on this workshop and it's still going ahead, from our perspective, was important. So that first iteration, 2 days in to the enforced shutdown, we put on a webinar. Our workshop should have been interactive, loads of questions, group work, all of that, but we didn't have the knowledge to be able to turn that around. It seems so silly, like now, to look back of what we can do online. So we did a webinar. It was just an information session, the bare bones of what we ordinarily taught in the workshop. But we used to run workshops every week. So within that next week, we had learned about this thing called Zoom that had breakout rooms that you could do group work in and have group chats in. The university didn't have access to Zoom. That got poo-pooed. We were told you're only allowed to use Teams. So we kind of had to go back to the drawing board. So it was one to many in terms of like interacting. It was one facilitator, me as the course organizer, and all the participants. No breakout rooms, no group work, but really ensuring that people were given activities to do. They would work through the activities in real time. They'd be supported. It was as close to an in-person workshop as we could get it with the tools that we had at the time. And it evolved. We kept evolving it as we. I can't remember what happened first. I think. I don't know. Did we use Zoom at some point? I don't know. It's so many years ago now, but we were forever iterating. And the biggest takeaway was that we ended up putting on more workshops in that first, from the March through to the June. We put on more workshops because demand was massive, because we were one of the few offers that was still going in that tough first few months. The labs were shut. PhD students didn't have much to do, so demand went up. Supply and demand. We practiced what we preach. We put on more. Within that first year, we created an online asynchronous course that could be done at the anywhere around the world at any time, and just kind of self-paced learning. What we found was that people would start it, but they wouldn't finish it. So then we moved to kind of a hybrid delivery, and we would book people on, and we would introduce them at the beginning of the day. We would set them the goals, and then they would work through that asynchronous course in the morning. We would check in with them at lunchtime to ensure they're keeping going with it. So that was a true hybrid, blended delivery, hybrid delivery. I think there was so many new terminology that was happening at the time. But I'm really proud of how we did react and turn around our offer at that time. And we've gone back in person for some things. We have kept some things online. The genie's certainly not going back in the bottle in terms of the ways of working. across the world. And that's okay. And we're still constantly evolving, still constantly tweaking based on feedback and what user needs are. And it's, at the end of the day, it's practicing what we preach in terms of meeting our customer wants, needs, and demands.
Right. That's really a next level of agility, right? And
Yeah.
and it shows how fast things can move. And you were talking about Genie. So if Genie comes out and if he could take you back in time and give your PhD self one piece of advice, or what would it be?
Oh, I love that question. And it's the piece of advice. I get asked to sit on quite a few panels. And I share the story that I've shared with you about my squiggly career. I certainly didn't have a plan. And the one piece of advice that I give to that the audiences are, it's okay to have a plan, but that plan probably won't go according to plan, and that's okay. And the piece of advice I give is that it's always easier to sit on this side of the panel table and tell your story looking backwards and join the dots of, oh, that happened and then this happened and then this happened. At the time, you don't know how the story is unfolding. So pursue what you want, what you enjoy. My next step, so doing a PhD, was because I liked doing research. I went to America because I wanted to study autism, and the best autism research institute I could get a job at was in California. I then came back here, serendipitously took this job in entrepreneurship. When the opportunity arose to step up to run the team, it actually came up 2 times. The first time I put my hat in the ring, I didn't get shortlisted. I didn't get an interview, but it showed that I had intent and career ambition to grow and go further within the team. So that was important. And here I am as head of entrepreneurship, but I also still don't have a future plan. But I know in 5-10 years time, my story, everything we've discussed about my background today will still be there, but there'll just be new chapters, new pieces of the puzzle that get added in. And don't be afraid to change careers. Don't be afraid to. I was there. I felt like a failed academic. I still have that gremlin on my shoulder that says, "Oh, you didn't quite make it to be a world famous researcher." But that's okay. I love working in academia, but not as an academic. For me, it's got all the benefits of being in that academic environment around students, around the fantastic research that's happening. But I don't have to write grants. I don't have to justify my own existence. I don't have to support. I don't have to get cyclical grant funding to employ my team that are in my lab. Yes, I have to run the budgets, and yes, I have to employ my team here, but that's a lot more steady than it is within the full academic system. So have a plan, but if that plan doesn't go according to plan, that's okay. You will create your own narrative of the why things happened looking back.
Amazing. That's such a good one. So, all right, last big one, when you're speaking about academia itself, right? So, where do you see this academia heading in the startup and incubation or innovation world in the next few years?
Yeah, I think so. Enterprise education within an academic setting is a really important extracurricular student experience add, because it gives, yes, a student the opportunity to get a degree and the opportunity to try things while they are in a university setting, that there is the support while they are there, that lots of our courses, if people had to pay market rate, they'd be paying hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to do a 10-week program to take an idea and develop it from idea to MVP. So I'll always promote that students make as much use of extracurricular university offers as possible while they are at university. The sector as a whole is facing challenges, and that's really, universities are, there's a lot of challenges around funding within the university setting. UCL are doing very well in comparison. We're very fortunate that we are a top 10 university in the world, based in a very famous city. So people and students still do want to come here. But I think I know of other colleagues at different universities whose enterprise programs are seen as kind of nice to haves, but they get cut when cuts have to be made. And there is a lot of challenges within the enterprise education sector around that. And I think that's a real shame, because that is completely opposite and dichotomous to the messaging that's out there of what students want and need. They are interested in entrepreneurship. They want to learn more about it. They want to understand how they can curate and create their own futures by being their own bosses and have opportunities to earn. They might have a job and a side hustle. They might have a portfolio career where they're doing a little bit of that, of one job for 2 years, and then they go and do another job for 2 years and another job for 2 years. That's the future. And I think I'm very fortunate that when I was at school, at one of my school speech days, the speech that our head teacher gave really landed with my dad, and I'm forever grateful that it did, because he was saying to he was speaking to and addressing the parents in the room, and he said, you as the parents of these children, your parents or their grandparents had jobs for life. They worked in a bank, one job for life. You parents are most likely to have had careers for life. They might be teachers, they might work in the NHS, they might do many jobs, but within one broad career. And he said, these children here will have multiple careers in their future. And that's exactly what has happened to me. I've had my career as an academic. I've now in my enterprise educator support professional services career. I think there's probably a Venn diagram with a third circle, and there's something in the middle of those three circles that I will end up doing. I don't know what that is yet. So I think we need to be preparing the students, university students and younger school students, that portfolio careers are the future, and what that looks like in terms of stability, earnings, financial, mental health, well-being, work-life balance. That's all shifting. And I think entrepreneurship and having the skills of resilience, being agile, having ideas, being creative, feeds in to providing the foundations for success in this very uncertain world that we find ourselves in. And if I can practice what I preach, I will continue to do that to the students based on my prior experience, and saying, this isn't my job for life. I'm a custodian of this job. At some point, I'll hand over the baton to the next person that can take entrepreneurship at UCL to the next level, and I will move on to my next career. I don't know what that is yet, but I'll be excited when it comes. Maybe it will happen to me like it happened at my last career shift. Maybe it will be my choice. I don't know, but that's my life, and that's what I'm excited to see what happens.
Amazing. So if folks want to follow your work or get involved at UCL, where should they go?
So follow us, me on LinkedIn is Ruth, I think I'm Dr. Ruth Weir, PhD on LinkedIn, or follow our work at UCL through the UCL Innovation and Enterprise page. There you'll see all of our upcoming events and external events that people can book onto. For example, we are hosting a big startup get together in September of this year, a joint initiative with other universities. So most things go through there.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Ruth. I feel like this 30-45 minutes, what we discussed, isn't really enough to get all the wisdom you have got on entrepreneurship and innovation. I think we'll have to do a round two sometime.
A round two. Okay, Harris. That's okay. We'll do a round two at some point.
Right. But thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you
You're
so
more
much
than
for
welcome.
joining us.